Hey, welcome to the program. Tonight we're going to talk about dating, in particular about self-confidence and vulnerability in dating. Now, this is a meditation class, right? I mean, and if you think about dating, you think that's usually something that's done with another person, and meditation is something that's usually done by yourself. How is it that sitting at home alone by yourself is going to help you with dating? Well, watch on and you will learn our secrets.
Or if you're avoiding dating, then this is the perfect exercise
The
also for
perfect
you.
excuse to avoid. Yeah. My name is Dr. Asitar Bear. My co-teacher here, Leah Schaefer. We're here every week.
Hello.
We do this live stream. We come from a tradition of Sufism. We teach heart rhythm meditation. That's a unique method of meditation that focuses on the heartbeat and the breath and bringing this together into rhythm. And each week, of course, we try to choose a theme. We're trying to be helpful, right? Like meditation
Yeah.
can do many different things. It can be tuned in many different ways. So
Yes.
we're like, what do you need? What can we help with? That's what we're here for.
What is
So
the cry inside your heart?
what's the cry inside your heart? Like if meditation is not helping you, then, what's it, just another hobby or something? Um, so that's what we try to do. Of course, if you have an idea for us for a theme, we'd love to hear that.
Yes.
Get in contact with us, drop us a comment. We'd love to address your needs, not just our idea of what your needs might be.
Yeah. Tell us what you need. Tell us what you need. That's
That's what
also
you need.
important in dating. It's important to communicate your needs in dating as well as with your teachers or friends, however you want to categorize them.
What whatever is helpful, like
Yeah,
dating can be pretty
whatever is
brutal,
helpful.
so we're
We don't, yeah, exactly. Dating is
well,
the cry. It's like it's that brutal. Like
yeah,
it's fun
that's
and brutal at the same time.
that's
Both of
that's
those
the
things.
cry exactly. We want
Hmm.
to connect, right? I mean, like this is what our hearts are longing for, right? Our hearts are longing to connect with others, right? Because the reality is there's one heart. I mean, the reality is that love is an infinite stream that flows through us. um, and we long to express that, we long to discover that, we long to receive that, it's love is an ocean, we want to dive into it and swim in it. We want to
Mm.
immerse ourselves in it, but we have all these barriers, don't we? I mean, we have our individuality. We say, oh, this is me and this is outside me, right? And the navigating all of that, right? Who do we let in and who do we keep out, right?
Mm.
That's an important
Yeah.
part of what is the self, right? And maybe we, because we live so closely with one another, right? I mean, we have a lot of defense mechanisms, right? We have a lot of barriers.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
we're quite good at keeping people out, actually, right? We can
Some of us.
stand in a packed elevator and meet nobody's gaze, right? Like, and have no meaningful exchange, right? Even though we're inches away from people on all sides, right? Um,
Yeah.
we have very good defense mechanisms. So, what is it like to like let those
Hmm.
down? Um,
Hmm.
and try to connect, right? I mean, we're working against a lot of our patterns here.
Right. Totally. Yeah. I'm particularly excited about this topic because over the last 2 years or year or whatever, it's been that I've had much more dating experience in my life than ever before, and I've done like quite an extensive amount. Well, I mean for myself anyway, I've read several books that have been extremely helpful that I'm going to reference for everybody tonight. And I just kind of want to initially say outright that it's like, you know, I think it's really helpful in the dating world to just accept that failure really doesn't matter. So like, say that you're recently single, like, if you're ready to date, like, don't be afraid of past failures in order to put yourself out there again.
Mm,
And then the dating world is, from my experience, it's fun and brutal at the same time. And so to just like regardless of however many failures you might have, like as far as like how many first dates that you have to go on, again, like you have to have that kind of conviction and faith in like what it is that you want, and that you're very much worthy of what it is that you want, however that
Yeah,
might look to you.
that's great
Yeah.
advice. And I feel like that advice is actually pretty widely applicable outside of dating.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
how many times do we need to start over in some way, right? How many times are we,
Hmm.
find ourselves at step one, and then, that can feel very frustrating, right? But
Yeah.
that's life, right? There's lots of beginnings in life, and what matters
Hmm.
is the steps that we take, not okay, we had to start over here and we didn't want to or whatever, I mean, um, so I think that's good advice for us all, right? To say,
Right.
like a baby learns to walk, and they don't
Yeah.
count the times that they fall down, right? They count the times that they make progress, right? And that's
Yeah,
that's our.
exactly.
But I
Yeah.
think this thing about what do I want and what am I looking for? This is actually where this piece about vulnerability enters in,
Hmm.
because letting yourself know what you
Yeah.
want is a moment
Hmm.
of vulnerability, right? Because when
Yes.
you say, like, I want this, right? I want
Yeah.
this. Well, that's an interesting moment, right? And that's a moment that's worth some reflection. And also, it's a moment where you say, oh, okay, I want this, but what am I doing about it, right?
Yeah.
um, and maybe how am I standing in the way of it myself, right? I mean, we do that,
Hmm.
right? Sometimes we stand in the way of the things that we say we want. um,
Yeah, absolutely. And even just being open enough to know what it is you want, so
yeah,
like I think even just letting yourself have a dream sometimes can feel very scary from past disappointments.
absolutely.
And so, yeah, I think that, even sometimes just allowing yourself to dream of what it is you actually want and to be open enough in your heart to feel what you want,
Yeah,
what do you genuinely want? Not what is society telling you want, but what do you genuinely want?
exactly.
Um, yeah.
There's a lot of pressure on our desires to like conform, right? These desires are acceptable and these desires are not, and whatever, right? Um, and we're not saying that you should ignore all of that. It's just that we need to. We're going through layers, right? I mean, like there is the layer of like, okay, here's what we're told, and here's what's socially acceptable, and whatever. Um, but we want to go to the depths, right? We want to really explore what are our hearts longing for, right? Otherwise, we're cutting off that stream of power that flows from our
Hmm.
hearts. Um, and we are getting in our own way, right? So,
Hmm.
I think this is part of the answer to that question that we posed at the very beginning, right? Like, how does sitting alone in meditation or whatever, not to say it's not possible to meditate with others, that's a good thing. We've done that, lots of times and whatever, you know but usually it's something you do alone or whatever. How does that help you? Well, you can learn about what are your own barriers and how are you in your own way, right? What is it
Hmm.
that you really want? Explore your desires, explore your heart. And by doing that, you find, even if you think right, there's often more layers to it that you might not be aware of, right?
Yeah.
And
And it can also, sorry, go ahead, Asatar.
well, I'm just reaffirming that that's a moment where you have to be vulnerable. You have to be open to that exploration. You have to be open to going within and learning that, right? And not trying to
Yeah.
impose on it yourself, right?
And meditation can also help you be patient.
Right.
Because that you have to be really patient.
Once you know
To
what you
go on
want, you
all
mean?
these dates and then like get disappointed and then go on dates again and like
Yeah,
then you meet someone and then you get excited and you're like you have to be patient even then because you're still just discovering each other and testing out the waters,
especially
so
then. Yeah.
yeah, so patience will help with that. I mean, meditation will help with the patience. And then from the self-confidence side of things, I'm a really big advocate. I've done a lot of work on this myself of really creating internal validation. So, from the book Hold Me Tight, which I highly recommend by Sue Johnson, she talks about like being able to talk about your needs, and she talks about being able to speak and communicate vulnerably.
Hmm.
Um, um, oh, I forgot. I lost it.
Well, I'm sure we'll pick it
uh,
up again. These are
yeah.
these are big themes, you know, like when we talk about vulnerability and the ability to be vulnerable, you know,
Mhm.
like you might say to
Oh,
yourself,
that's
why
awesome.
should I be vulnerable? Be vulnerable? That's like being
Yeah.
weak, right? Like, well,
Mhm.
kind of. I mean, but not really, right? Because being vulnerable means letting other people into your heart, right? And if you want
Mhm.
to connect with somebody, you're going to have to do that. I'm sorry. You know, like you don't
Yeah.
like that? Well, sorry. That's the reality, right? Like you have to share yourself with somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to do that requires that you let down some of that armor, right?
Mhm.
Now, does that
Mhm.
carry the potential that you'll be hurt? Of course it does, right? And
And
that makes
and
it
also
scary.
yeah, and also that you know yourself well enough to know your sense of self to share, you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
just even that bit, you know, like for if you're somebody that struggles with self-abandonment or lack of a sense of strong sense of self, like I have for much of my life, like then that like ability to um that ability to like know what it is that makes you happy, what it is that nourishes you in and of itself, like to know yourself well enough to be able to share yourself, even the bad, like so-called scary parts.
Right.
I have these issues. Help, you know, like even the scary parts of yourself, you have to know yourself in order to, and then that does take like a certain level of openness and vulnerability. And sorry, I remembered what I was going to say. So
All right.
this internal, this I was talking about the internal validation. I just want to emphasize too that from the book Hold Me Tight from Sue Johnson, that validation within a relationship is extraordinarily important. And she talks about like being available, like you and the other person being
Mm-hmm.
available, being responsive. Like so, if I say I have a need, is that person responding to me? And being engaging. So like I'm not doing
Mm-hmm.
all of the work. Like there's like both people, both parties are engaging and participating. But so external validation, it's like this tricky thing because external validation is very important in a secure relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but while you are forming a new relationship, having the internal validation is huge and key. And
Right.
so that's one of the things we'll practice tonight with my meditation. And one of the ways that you can meditation is one of the ways you can co-regulate. So like when you
Mm-hmm.
have an experience in dating where you are being unvalidated, like somebody is like proactively maybe like unvalidating you in some way,
Because that
you can
happens.
have
We have to admit that that happens in dating, right? I mean, that's a kind of a
yeah,
tactic. It's a mind game, you know.
yeah,
But
yeah.
we'll talk about that
And
in a minute. Go on, you know, to finish your thought.
yeah, so um s- so sorry, I was on a little bit of a wave there, and then I've lost it again. I, anyway, the so we'll just move on. Oh, just that the co-regulation. I
Mm-hmm.
mean not the co-regulation, but the internal emotional regulation can be done through meditation. So when you hit a bumpy ground with an external like invalidation of any sort, then that internal validation and that regulation from whatever trigger might have come can come from meditation as well. And so that's part of what we'll explore tonight in our
Yeah,
meditations.
absolutely. You know, this piece about knowing who you are and just owning that place, right? Sitting in
Mhm.
your throne, right? That is huge. You know, I mean, to be able to say, this is who I am, you know, to first of all to know that, and then to be able
Mhm.
to be strong enough in that to say, to feel like, well, that has value, you know, like I don't have to
Yeah,
be everything to every
yeah.
person. I can't be anyway, right? Like, you know, I am who I am, you know. I mean,
Mhm.
and this is where meditation can really help, right? Because you learn about yourself by going within, right? By asking the questions, and it's and sitting with it, right? And seeing, learning who you are, right? um, and I have to say it's very powerful to really focus on your heart, because your heart is where your
Mhm.
emotions are, right? That's where your desires are, that's where your
Mhm.
values are, you know. That's where the long held desires are, not the fleeting ones, right? Not the surface level ones, right? I mean, those are there too, right? And those are important, right? We need, we want surface level things. We want money, we want sex, we want power. Like, okay, that's okay, right? But there's deeper things we want too, right? Like those are transitory, right? Um, we
Yeah.
want to express ourselves, we want to
Connection.
grow, we want to connect. I mean, like
Hmm.
these are, but of course, this is just words. What I'm saying, right? Like it's about your own experience of that, your own,
Hmm.
that is that's what gives you that feeling of like, okay, here I am, I can stand here, right? Come what may.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and that's like that internal security and that internal self-esteem. Like, I am valuable, and the things that I want in my heart is also valuable, and I'm also
Yeah,
worthy of these things. Like,
absolutely.
point
And
blank. Yeah.
I think when you feel that confidence, that like what is this self-confidence, right? The knowing that I'm enough, the knowing
Yeah.
who I am,
Hmm.
um, and just being able to hold that and to stand with that. Well, that allows you to then be vulnerable, right? That allows you to open
Hmm.
yourself in a way that you wouldn't be able to if you didn't feel that strength, if you didn't have that self-knowledge, right? So, you know,
Hmm.
you might think of it as like, all right, hey, sitting at home alone isn't by itself helping you connect with somebody else, but it might be clearing away a lot of the obstacles which prevent you from doing that right now,
I love that. Yeah.
because we all have our obstacles. I mean, don't we? I mean, let's be honest, right? Like a lot
Oh
of times
yeah.
we're our own worst enemy, when it comes to getting what we want. If we step out of the way, sometimes that can be very helpful.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And like valuing what you want enough to not allow another person to dishonor what you want. Like there's a lot about like with self-confidence in particular, having self-respect actually teaches other people how to treat you. And so, when somebody that you're dating is not respecting you, it's like they're going to just fall by the wayside if you are respecting and loving yourself. And it's the same for both love and respect. It's like
Yeah.
um, you won't allow a person to cross those boundaries if you know and honor and value yourself like throughout this process.
Right. I mean, and in that sense, like what people say is like,
Mm,
if you want respect from others, respect yourself, right? Because
exactly.
that's where it starts, right? Um,
Hmm.
well, do you
Yeah.
want to start us off with your meditation?
Sure.
Get into this
Okay,
stuff and
we'll start off.
try and experience it.
Yeah, we're so excited. We're just chatting it up. Thank you everyone for joining us for date night. Okay, so on this,
By the way, Leah and I are not dating each other. We're professionals. That's just FYI. Not that anyone
yeah,
knows.
we're not dating each other, but we're both dating other people.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry, folks. We're taken.
well, um, all right. So go ahead and close your eyes as you're ready. And so come into your posture and just start to really deepen your breath. So I know I've mentioned this many times, and I'll probably mention it at least a million more times in my whole lifetime because the reality is when you breathe deep, full breath, you activate your vagus nerve, which activates your parasympathetic nervous system. So, right now, practice deep breathing and feel your diaphragm really moving slowly up and down as you breathe. Because as you go on this journey of dating, there's going to be a lot of fear, there's going to be a lot of triggers, along the way. That's like all very normal and natural part of dating. And so you really want to develop this tool of self-regulation. And in its most basic form, this deep breathing practice, this most basic form of heart rhythm meditation. Deep breathing and then tuning in with your heart. But even if you can't feel your heart yet, you can still breathe. No matter what, you can breathe. And so you really want to learn how to regulate your system throughout a time that feels very uncertain and when you don't have that secure base of a relationship. You really want to have this go to of self regulation, of coping with whatever might come. And so, even just this deep breathing is a perfect remedy for a lot of different imbalances. And you'll notice as you breathe, either your inhalation or your exhalation will be easier or like favored by your body. And so if you're having trouble inhaling, I really recommend softening all of your muscles, all your cells, all your muscles and your thoughts, your expectations, just softening through your whole body and mind. And it feels like a good inhalation feels like almost like you're in the forest and you're taking a really deep breath of fresh air in. It's like this absorption. And if you have trouble with your exhalation, you have to really work the bottom of your exhalation. So allowing most of your exhalation to be natural, but then at the end of the exhalation, realizing you actually have more air in your lungs and really using your abdomen muscles and your intention to give it everything you have. With the trust that a new inhalation is about to come right back in. And then wherever you are, this, I just want to emphasize again, if all you did was a deep breathing practice for 5-10 minutes, you're going to regulate your nervous system. So this is a tool for you forever. And then we're heart people, so we like the abundance, right? And so we're going to add in our heart now too. So just, you can even place your fingertips onto your heart if you want to. And I like to kind of bow my head slightly so that I have more of a connection with my actual heart as I'm breathing. And you just feel your heart, maybe even breathing in rhythm with your heartbeat, which will take time and practice. So if you don't have that bit of the practice yet, if you haven't mastered that bit of heart rhythm meditation, just please connect in with your heart, dear one, and feel the way that your heart and your breath interact. Bringing your breath into rhythm with your heartbeat on any scale or scope or level. And right now, I mean, this is a relationship. This is a relationship between you and your heart in this moment. And so to start to build self-confidence inside of you, I want to invite you to give to your heart the words that you most want to hear from a beloved one. So just take a little bit of time with that. Like, what would those words be for you in this moment? And don't ask your head. Don't go into the spheres of consciousness. I want you to go into your heart and really listen as you breathe. And in this moment, you are safe. You are safe with your heart because it has so much energy that it actually enfolds you. So approaching your heart with the deep reverence that you would approach a beloved one outside of yourself, approaching your heart with that deep reverence and really asking internally, what do you most need to hear? What are the words or the actions or the knowing that you most need to feel and know, my dear heart? And if you've come up with words, I want to invite you to say those words to your own heart and say them either silently to yourself or out loud, whatever your heart might need. Validating your heart and its needs and its desires. And so I'm very much a word person, so affirmations and mantras affect me greatly, and they've been of great service to me as I've been on the dating journey. So I want to share some of the most powerful mantras I've given to myself over the last year, and sometimes I just repeat them again and again and again and again, you know. Try to get them to sink in. So one of those for me has been, you are worthy of love. So try saying this to your heart. If you like, try saying to your heart, you are worthy of love. Maybe even telling your heart, I will be with you through everything. I will be with you. You are mine. And any time I'm approached with a situation where I feel invalidated, I don't have to accept that. Because I'm able to remember that that deep reverence that I have for my own value, for my own self. I can reject anything that comes toward me as not being true. So that knowingness that you're worthy of love, regardless of how you've been treated in the past, regardless of invalidation. And it's like whatever happens, whatever might come throughout this journey of dating, the thing I like to tell myself too is I'm free. I am free. This really empowers my heart because when I tell my heart I'm free, I know that I do not have to accept anything that crosses the boundaries of honor and respect toward me. I don't have to put up with it. So, in other words, like for me in particular, I don't need to people please, right? Like, I'm free. I can say, I can speak my piece. I can put my boundaries. I can honor myself and my dreams, regardless of whoever's in front of me. And the last one I'll share with you tonight is this comes from the book Attached, which I also highly recommend by Levine and Heller. And the reality is that every single person wants to give and receive love. We don't always know how to. And sometimes that part of our heart is blocked off and we're afraid, and then it gets more blocked off by our fear. So if you can help your heart remember in those moments, maybe you are acting out of fear or the person that you're seeing is acting out of fear. If you can remember in those moments that every single person inherently wants to give and receive love, they're not out to get you. Every person wants to give and receive love. You can help yourself really anchor that into the rhythm of your heartbeat. Then you can start to become the secure base inside yourself that almost holds the space for a secure relationship and secure attachment, which is completely natural. Attachment is we need each other, we need connection. And so you can think about maybe someone you are dating, or maybe you're going to go on a dating app, or you're going on dates. Breathe this in and out of your heart. Every single person, everyone wants to give and receive love. We just don't always know how to. And then as you're ready, moving your body and opening up your eyes.
I think there's a lot of important things we could learn from that meditation, but when we affirm ourselves, when we craft a message to ourselves,
Yeah.
um, it's helpful to repeat it. It's helpful to
Yeah.
deepen it. And one of the things
Mhm.
that you kind of go through when you do that is you go through your own resistance. you know
Mhm.
like when you say,
Mhm. Yeah.
I am
100%.
worthy, or I believe in myself, or whatever your affirmation is.
Yeah. Yeah.
The first thing that comes up is like, no, I don't. And
What is this Hallmark bullshit?
yeah,
Sorry.
this is
Like that's
bullshit.
like
I
that's the
mean,
kind of thing that comes up though. Is like
yeah.
this is just,
So if that's happening for you, it doesn't mean you suck at affirmations. It just means you're human. I mean, like that is happens to all of us.
yeah.
And because there you are exposing your own, the part of you that doesn't believe it, is
Mhm.
right there, right, saying no. and
Mhm.
and by repeating it, you let it sink in, you let it penetrate those defense mechanisms,
Yeah.
um, and you give it time to work. You don't say it once, right? You just you go deeper with it, right? Like, oh, there's a
Mhm.
part of you that's resisting it. Well, there's also a part of you that's doing it. There's a part of you that knows
Mhm.
it's true. So all right,
Yeah.
you let those parts be in conflict for a while, and all right,
Mhm.
so you have some conflict about something you're saying, and so I just want to, mention with all this stuff, right? It's a process, it's a practice.
Mhm.
You get more from it, the more you practice it, of course. Um,
Mhm.
but it's very powerful, because it does, what you do repeatedly does have a big impact on who you are. And so if you
Mhm.
want to bring out certain things, it's a good way of doing that. Um,
Yeah, and I would just because I had a when I wasn't dating yet, but like when I was like approaching going toward dating, I mean, I was in a space of like really not believing that I was, like really not believing these sentiments that I'm saying now out loud. And I had to just repeat it again and again and again. Like I wouldn't even be meditating and I would just repeat these things to myself again and again and again. And it
mhm.
does need to be like, there should be some sort of authenticity with what you say to yourself. So I do want to encourage you to find the words that your heart needs to hear, like so in the book Hold Me Tight by Sue Johnson, like she lists out these sayings of I need this, I need, and we do have needs. And so what is your need? Like what's your heart's need? What does it need to know? What does it need to hear? And if you keep that like mantra in your heart again and again and again, like telling yourself, like that this is totally something that is within your scope of value, um, you will eventually start to believe it. Especially if you breathe it in, like especially if you breathe it in. So,
I that's so true. Um, and I want to say something about, like a lot of the advice that one gets, like you're dating or whatever. Um, let me just, I'll just say this for myself, right? Okay, so
yeah.
I was in a long marriage. I got married when I was quite young, and so I was out of the dating pool for 30 years, right? Like, I mean, and and then
Welcome.
I'm going through a divorce. Which is
God.
difficult and painful.
Yeah.
And so I start dating, and I this very strange thing happened. I mean, I met someone and just fell for her head over heels. And maybe this is not uncommon, or I don't know what, but like I was like, this happened to me one other time in my life. Um,
Yeah.
and so it's I'm taking note of that. And
Yeah.
I'm noticing that, like, how I'm proceeding in this feels like it's very much at odds with like what you're sort of taught to do, or like I'll say, like, for men or whatever, like, and maybe this is for everybody, but like if you send a text and you don't get one back, you don't keep on sending texts, right? Like, I mean, that's I think a rule that pretty widely followed, right? Yes, am I right? I mean, right? or
Yeah.
or
It's a
you
whole,
don't want to
yeah.
seem too eager, you don't want to, like, Okay,
It's a dance, as they
it's a
say.
dance, right? Yeah. But what is this
Yeah.
advice about, right? This advice is like, don't be vulnerable, um, be,
Right.
like hold yourself back or whatever, or, like
Okay.
if you want to date somebody, you don't say, let's go on a date, like it's 1950. So let's hang out, whatever, right? You leave this ambiguity in here, right? About what your intentions are, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's interesting, right? Because like, so we have all this cultural messaging, which basically, I mean, I'll say particularly for men, I can't comment so much, what messages women receive or whatever. I don't know if I'm tuned into that as much, but like, I think that the message for men is like, don't be vulnerable, be strong,
Mm.
project a certain
Mm.
image, right?
Mhm.
And then there's a whole set of messages that are even more insidious, which is like, basically, neg the woman, right? That means attack her sense of self-worth, like attack her
Really?
appearance in some mocking way or whatever, or joking way, attack her accomplishments, or, like, bring her down, and like,
Mhm.
wow, what an interesting set of messages, right? And of course, these aren't mind games,
Right.
right? Like you're
Yeah.
encouraging somebody to seek validation in you, right? And then, okay, well, then you have the power, right? So, oh, well, I'll show you that I'm attractive by having sex with you, let's say, right? Like, I mean, you know,
Mhm.
and this is like the sort of pickup artist mentality or game or whatever. And
Mhm.
I'm not going to comment on the effectiveness. Obviously, sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. Like I don't really care, right? But what I'm interested in is
Mm.
like, does this get you what you want in a deep way, right? Like,
Right.
if what you want is sex, maybe that works, right? I mean, like, you're going to
Mhm.
attract a certain kind of person, right? By
Mhm.
preying on their vulnerabilities,
Mhm.
Um, let's say um, you're not helping a person get stronger there, right? I mean, like
Right.
you know, that's a kind of a predatory, vibe, right? Um,
Right.
so, I mean, I don't want to like cast aspersions or whatever, but I'm just saying, is that, think about what it is you really want, right? Um,
Mhm.
and like Leah said beautifully during the meditation, we all have this very deep longing to give and receive love. And
Mhm.
think about if the way that you're being is going to get there, um, is that going to get there? And so just that's something to think about in all this, um,
Yeah, because love is something you create, and in relationship, you create it. You have the power to create love in any given moment.
mhm.
But as a couple, you can co-create love, and that is actually something that it's like you're regularly doing. So you're regularly like creating the dynamic together, and so yeah, like I think you hit on a lot of points with that example, also, Tara. Like one of the things that I just heard really strongly you saying is essentially like be your authentic self because it's like you're creating a dynamic and it's like you
Yeah,
don't want to instill a habit of creating an inauthentic dynamic. And especially not one that obviously we're not advocating for manipulation, but there's a lot of these like, oh, this is how you trick people into it. And like there's this there's like this I sing this little it's so ridiculous. I sing this little thing to myself where I'm like, be yourself. Because it's from a comedy from a long time ago with Ryan Reynolds anyway, so, like, it's like this old comedy that's in my head. But it's like, you really do wanna just be yourself very much and come authentically so that you can create authentically, and it's not about being a power struggle.
yeah. And if we get real, power comes from within. That is the most authentic source
Mhm.
of power. I mean, every other kind of power is, basically trying to control others. That is very fleeting. I mean, like,
Yeah.
are you going to be able to control others all the time? No. Like, let's be honest. No
Mhm.
matter how good a manipulator you are, or how rich or famous or whatever the hell, right? I mean, you are not going to be able to control others all the time. That's just the reality,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so, you look within, know yourself, know your own
Yeah.
power. And you know what? That the key to that, interestingly
Mhm.
enough, is vulnerability, right? You have to
Right.
you have to be open. You have to know yourself, right? And
Mhm.
there's something that's very powerful about sharing that, like when you say,
Mm.
this
Mm.
is what I want, this is what I need, this is what I'm
Yeah.
looking for, and this is who I am.
Yeah. Yeah, I love
That's very
that.
powerful,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, yeah, and I just wanna hit on this point real quick. If you are someone that has received that type of manipulation towards you, this is the point where self-confidence comes in really strong. It's like, "No, I don't receive that." Like, "That
Yeah,
is not true about me, actually." Like, you know? No,
totally.
I don't take that in because when we take, like, invalid messages into ourselves, and we believe them, we are abandoning ourselves. And so like
Absolutely.
you want to accept the pain that might be happening from whatever might has happened. You want to accept that, love yourself anyway, and just like absolutely, you can just say absolutely not. That's not true. That's not who I am. I don't identify
Yeah.
with that, right? Yeah.
So, I think I'm speaking a lot to my fellow men here, right? When I say
Yeah.
we have the wrong idea culturally about what is vulnerability. And, we're not going to like change that by like thinking about it or whatever, or me saying a bunch of words, no
Mhm.
matter how pretty those words are, right? You're going to
Mhm.
change that in yourself by experiencing it. Um, Women, I think it's different, right? Women,
Mhm.
are, like culturally in a very different place, right? And the attitudes toward being vulnerable and whatever are very different. Okay. So, I can't,
Yeah.
and I can't speak to that as authentically, right? Like I don't
Well
have that
well,
experience.
I mean, yeah, and I do think it depends very much just on the individual, sexes
Depends on the
aside,
individual. Yeah.
like, just depends on the individual, depends on you. Are you an
Yeah.
inhaler or an exhaler? But, like, but quite frankly, like, right? But I know from myself, the self-confidence bit is the thing that I've had to work on a lot. I was already open, already vulnerable, and so
Right. Right.
the self-confidence bit, and I do think it's key to have both of these things going on.
Yeah. And they're both very highly related. I mean, I think that's what I'm kind of learning
Mhm.
by our
Yeah,
conversation here in our dialogue, that
totally.
we think of these as being very different things or whatever, but there's a really strong connection between these
Mhm.
these two sides of ourselves, and we all have that, right? We all have it. So I want to just explore that in a meditation here. So let's take our good upright meditation posture, and we're sitting still, or we're sitting in a way that our back can be straight, but using the minimal amount of muscular energy to do that. So having your knees a little bit lower than your hips, or at least on the same level, is helpful for that. And just feeling your weight being on your sits bones and your spine lined up, and tuning into your breath. We really want to change our breath to first of all make our breath deep. So that means expanding the belly as you breathe in, contracting the belly as you breathe out. That's abdominal breathing, belly breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, called all these things. This brings us down into our bodies, out of our heads, out of our thoughts. Triggers the parasympathetic nervous system. And then we want to make our breath slow. We have time to really study the breath, to experience the breath, to notice that the breath has a different energy on the inhalation as it does on the exhalation. And I like to really focus on this inhalation part of this, right? So, inhalation is the energy that you are receiving. Try to just really open yourself to the energy that you're receiving. So, breath is two things: breath is air, that is the surface level, and breath is energy, breath is spirit, breath is life. Breathing in, you are taking in life, you're taking in energy, you're taking in spirit. And breathing out, you are radiating that energy. You are sending that energy to wherever you choose. You are expressing your own unique energy signature, that combination of energies that you have that is unique to you. Now we'd like to work further on the breath and make the breath heart-centered and rhythmic. And we can do this through the same action, which is to focus on our heartbeat. You might place a hand on your heart, or even two hands, or maybe just lightly press on your breastbone with your fingertips. That helps you feel the beating of your heart. We want that signal. And we want to breathe in rhythm with that heartbeat. So the same number of beats on the inhalation as on the exhalation. You can choose the number that works for you. But I'd like you to work on making the breath longer, slower, fuller, and deeper, so that your breath takes longer to do than it does normally. So you might take, for example, 8 beats in, 8 beats out. Much slower, much longer inhalation. Really stretch yourself to take in all that breath. But you're doing it slowly, so your body has time to absorb it. Then on the exhalation, just let that flow of breath be very smooth, very powerful, but very slow, using your abdominal muscles much more than you normally do for breathing. Controlling the breath. Controlling the breath is controlling energy. Now, in Sufism, we see the heart as the energetic center of your being, the center which holds all other energy centers, the center of your emotions, the center of your values, your principles, who you are, where it is you need to go, and where you've been, the experiences that have shaped you. Tune into your heart and use your breath to energize your heart. Imagine your heart is like a shining sun right in the center of your being, center of your chest. Now you might notice that the sun has no protection whatsoever. The sun is alone in space, no protection. But the sun is its own protection, right? Because it is so powerful, because its energy is so powerful. Whatever energies strike the sun, it just absorbs them, right? And this is a good metaphor for your heart. Your heart is capable of absorbing all other energies, all other emotions, and not being overwhelmed. Your own feelings, your own wounds, your own traumas, your own pain, we all have that. It's there. But you can make your heart so energized, so full of energy, through your breath, through going deeply within your heart and just nourishing yourself with the breath. It's been my experience that the more that I've done this, the less fear that I have. The more I'm able to just open my heart to others. even at the risk of being rejected. That's not I mean, that's always painful. Let's be honest, okay?
Mhm.
We want to connect with others. We long to connect with others. When that connection is not there, when you are not met, that is very, very painful. But pain moves through our hearts no matter what. And what I've noticed, just going through my own heartbreak here, is there's that longing to connect. It carries pain with it. When you're together, when you're apart, when you're deeply in love, after you've broken up, the pain is different. That's true, right? We don't seek to have an experience or have a life that's free of pain. That's not life.
Mhm.
Life gives us pain to grow. We long to love, we long to be loved. And love exposes us to pain. That's the reality.
Mhm.
But when your heart is strong and bright, when you feed your heart with your breath, all I can say is that level of existential fear goes away.
Mhm.
You know on some level that you'll be fine, that you are whole, you're worthy, you're enough. Just even a taste of that infinite sun-like energy within you shifts your perspective and lets you see how much more there is to you than maybe you even knew. Maybe you had some recollection, some inkling. You knew on some level that you are vast, unlimited, infinite, eternal being. We long to experience the truth of that deeply and fully. Dive into your longing. Dive into your desires. Don't stay on the surface. Go deeper. Always deeper. Go fuller. Go forward. Expand outwards in all directions. Go inner. Go deeply within. Go to the spaces in between. You are unlimited. The Sufi master Hazrat Inayat Khan says of the heart, your heart is bigger than the universe. If there were 10 universes, your heart would contain them all. Wow, what a statement that is.
Mhm.
Your heart contains all. When you have realized that truth, what do you have to fear? Now, we're human. Of course, there's going to be fear. I won't claim that I'm free of it myself. But my experience is a lot less. It's not ruling you anymore. It's there, it's a signal, but it's not in charge. It gives you freedom to explore, freedom to be you. And everyone always says, be yourself. Well, that's the best advice for dating, be yourself. But who are you? Who are you really? All right, well, we'll we'll leave it there then. So when you're ready, come out of your meditation.
Mm,
We've gotten
that
some,
was profound. Thank you.
thank you. We've gotten some comments here. Let's see. Our friend Akbar Kadus is here.
I've
Never
never
dated
dated.
much. All right. What a
Cool.
shame. Someone who really should be in the dating pool.
Let's get you an online profile like you.
Yeah, let's hook up your online profile. And from my friend Noli D, how are you? Nice to see you. All love and respect, Dr. Asatar and Leah Schaefer.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming
Thank you
by,
so
Noli.
much.
Well, we
Yeah.
are running low on time because
Yeah.
we had so much to say on this topic. So maybe we'll
I was
talk
so
about it again if there's
energized. I
demand.
know.
If you have something
Yeah,
else,
let us know.
you let us know, right? Drop us
Tell
a
us your
comment.
needs. Practice your dating skills.
Tell us your needs, and then we will maybe help with that. We won't promise
We'll
help, but
try. We'll
we'll
attempt.
try.
But I also just want to mention the last book that I highly recommend. So two I mentioned already is Hold Me Tight by Sue Johnson. Attached, the second one is Attached by Heller and Levine, and the third book is called The Six Pillars of Self-Esteem, and that is by Nathaniel Branden. And I highly recommend reading those books if you're in the dating world.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so
Yeah.
much for joining us this evening. If you'd like to support the show, we have a link to the Patreon in the description, and we'll be here next week talking about TBD. So tune in for that.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And
Take
you
care,
are
everyone. Have a good
100%
night.
worthy of love. Have a good night.
You guys deserve love.